So let's get started. Data visualization. So, we have been learning data mining so far, various ways to explore our data, analyze our data, understand our data, things like that. And you have been making some simple charts, histogram, bar charts, and things like that. But so where does data visualization comes or combines with data mining or analytics? So, right now, as you might have heard before also in other classes, we are collecting a vast amount of data, and that's why we have big data available to us, or as such, we have this vast amount of data, and that's why the field of business analytics has become so hot right now, because you want to analyze this data. But once you have analyzed this data, you've understood it, sometimes your data analysis results in multiple your analysis in itself is quite complicated. The result from it is quite complicated. So how should we share our result with our peers, with our non-technical people, in a presentation, in a meeting, with our boss, supervisor, whatever? So the data visualization field is sort of now sits on top of analytics, and data visualization allows us to show our results or our information or even raw data in a much more meaningful way. So that's the purpose of data visualization. The second thing about data visualization, which I want to mention, is that when we think of data visualization, you might think of various new tools like Tableau, R, Visual Analytics, which are really amazing. Those tools are really good. But before you can start doing any kind of data visualization, you have to understand what kind of basic visualization, charts, options are available to us. And I teach another class in my university where I cover data visualization more in detail. But here I wanted to have at least one lecture or part of a lecture on it, so as to show you, give you an overview of this field. So that's what my goal is, that based on what's happening in the industry, I show you what you can do as well. Not something state of the art, because we don't have access, at least in University of Tennessee, in this class we don't have access to Tableau, and of course this class we are not using R. So I'm not trying to get into how to use those tools, but I'm trying to show you how, even if let's say you have PowerPoint and Excel, what can you do? What kind of charts you can use? So that's the purpose of this presentation. The greatest value of a picture or a chart is that it forces us to notice what we never expected to see, or I would say what we never expected to see, or which was not easily visible. You can even say that. Okay. So basically, we as human, we are better equipped to understand pictures, graphs, than understand numbers. So, the graphical representation. So what is data visualization? Data visualization is when you visually, it's a visual representation of data, and it can be used for multiple purposes, starting from exploration, which something as simple as you make a scatter plot or a bubble chart, and right there under exploration you can see what your outliers are, discovery, insight. So it can be used at any stage of data analysis, starting right from exploration to discovery, insight, to showing your end result as well. So there are three main kinds of data visualization: scientific visualization, information visualization, and visual analytics, which is sort of the latest field right there. And you have seen scientific visualization, which is structured data, like in your medical field, or you see this earthquake data, water waves, things like that. And then you have your information visualization, stock market up and down, how many friends you have on Facebook, on a certain address, how many restaurants, hotels are nearby. And then is your field of visual analytics, which is sort of the latest growing field, which borrows something from the field of art, field of analytics, field of science, and field of visualization, and sort of, you know, shows produces a different kind of result. And I really like some of these pictures. I think these are showing us the strength between is that somebody's a person who's friend. No, it's my country. So I've seen a similar chart here where they will show you a person and how many friends that person has on Facebook, and sort of the line, the more darker the line, the more strength in those two people's relationship on Facebook. That means the more they are interacting with each other, liking each other posts, pictures, things like that. So what are the tools available for visual analytics? So right now the most common tools are R, which is free, open source; Tableau, which I really like. I think you can go and get a free version, 30-day free version, if you want to try it out. It's a really good tool. MicroStrategy is a good tool too. They are very similar to Tableau. Then SAS Visual Analytics, which is as similar to SAS. And you guys already know Enterprise Guide. In your next advanced class you will learn Minor, so at least the interface is same if you use SAS. And then Microsoft PowerPoint, Excel, Oracle, IBM, and Gapminder. You might be surprised, why do we still have Microsoft, why do we have PowerPoint and Excel there? Well, the main reason for that is availability. Everybody has PowerPoint and Excel, and on top of that, everybody knows PowerPoint and Excel. So even though Tableau or SAS Visual Analytics or R are much more advanced than PowerPoint and Excel, but does everybody have them? Does everybody know them? So that access and availability and the learning curves makes a difference as well. Okay. So before I get into some of the chapters, I want to talk about color. You might think color is okay, it's not that important. So let me talk about color a little bit. It I think is one of the most important things when it comes to creating charts, or as a matter of fact, any way of representing data. Look at this picture or these bunch of numbers. Tell me how many sevens are there. I'm sure you can tell me the answer given 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. What if I make all the 7 bold? Does it make it easy now to find that answer? Or what if I change the color red? Makes it even more easy. So just a very simple example, use of color and bold. That was our normal view. Added color, made it bold, made it underline and bold, and or color underline. Why underline and bold and color? I'll tell you that in a minute. So this is a very simple example of how just simply adding a color or making it bold makes it easy to understand that the speaker is trying to put emphasis there, importance there, and easy for us to grasp that information. Okay. Then when you're creating charts and you use color, there are 3 main schemes of colors available to us, or 3 main ways you can use color. Sequential, you use a single color with multiple shades of it. Generally, the lighter the shade is high, darker the shade low, or you can do it other way around. Example, sequential, lighter gray to darker gray, and you are showing the data accordingly. That's called your sequential color scheme. Diverging, you have 2 colors, 2 sort of opposite colors, here red and blue, and again, this is sort of a mixture of sequential. So two sequential here, one this side, one this side, and that's the example of divergings. So the key thing to remember with diverging is you pick up a color which has some sort of relationship with it, that red and blue, or something like that. Then categorical, lot of colors, you use a lot of different colors, and each different color representing a different thing in your chart. Sequential, diverging, categorical. I'm not a big fan of categorical because is red better than yellow? Is brown worse than yellow? Makes it very confusing. What color it is representing what? I like diverging. The simplest is sequential. If you can do something in sequential in one color, that's best. Start with this sequential. Can I do in sequential diverging? If even then you cannot create a chart, then go to categorical. Categorical should be your last option. Then the other thing which comes to color is 1 in 12 men and 1 in 200 women are colorblind. So let's say you are giving a presentation to 100 people. So that means if you look at something like this, I would say 100 people, 5 to 10 people are colorblind. So when you show a picture, the top picture, they will see it like this. And so they cannot see it. So imagine you are trying to emphasize on certain number, figure, and you change its color to red or green or whatever, and those 4 to 10 people in your audience cannot understand that, because they are colorblind. And let's say one of them are the CEO or the manager or something like that. That's the person whom you want to impress. So we have to be careful. And going back, that's where this underline comes into the play. If you want to add color, if you add with color underline, if somebody's colorblind, by seeing that underline, they will understand that this is important, or this is something, the emphasis has been placed on that. So that's why underlining is always a good idea on something which you want to emphasize on. Okay. Then this is a website called vizcheck.com, which I really like. You can go on this website, and upload any figure, picture, chart, and they will convert it into a chart, or they will show you how that chart will look like to a colorblind person. So you can use this resource for that. Then I want to, I think in this May I attended a data visualization summit in San Francisco. Really, really nice summit on data visualization. We had companies Uber, Pinterest, MasterCard, Walmart, all these companies show up there, and they all gave us different examples of data visualization. And you'll be surprised that color was one of the biggest emphasis there. So what the people from Uber and other places, what they said was that every company needs to have a color palette, right? A set of 3 or 4 specific colors which represents your company. So whether you are going to their website or looking at some of their brochure pictures and stuff, every company needs to have a color palette. And once you have that color palette or some color design principle, that should apply to all your analytical tools, your design outputs, all the charts which are being created by your company. So for example, if in a company, this chart is created by department A, and department A is, let's say, showing a certain area as yellow and blue, or a certain trend as yellow. If the same chart is made by department B or C, will they also show that same a line or same area or the same bar as yellow or blue as department A. So the question which every company needs to answer is that if a same type of chart, quarterly result over of last 1 year, if different department, sales, finance, accounting, marketing, if all these different departments make that same chart, would they have same color schema or not? And that has become very important nowadays. Why? Because of the field of data visualization, where we are doing a lot of visualization, a lot of charts are being now used to share, decimate information. So we need to have a consistency. And then there's this article which I want to show you, which is by Uber. So when Uber became a global company, and they became a global company very fast. So this was their, Uber's color scheme and schema. So they really went through this discussion in their company that should Uber have a consistent design or use of color globally, or should they have a local flavor? And they came up with, their answer was local flavor. So this is how Uber looks like in Ireland. This is the color palette for Ireland. This is the color palette for India. This is the color palette for China. And then this is the color palette for Mexico. So they came up with, even though if you can see the designs are very similar, but the colors are different. So they made a conscious effort that our company outlook, our company overall design is global, but our color scheme would be based on local flavor. That's their word. And you know what they said, if you want to do that, how you should go about doing that. So look at a certain country's local currency, their flags, and that should guide you what kind of color preference that area, culture, country has. Start with the currency and flags. Once you have decided that, choose 3 to 4 specific colors, and the color schema should be distinctive but harmonious. So you should not have extreme colors together. The last thing is not last thing. The other very important thing about color is, which everybody agrees, at least in that conference, which multiple companies repeated, that if a chart can be created in black and white, do it in black and white. Do not add color on purpose. If something a chart can be nicely made in black and white, do not add color to it. Why? Because majority of the people still take a printout of their work, still have charts in a black and white printout on a page. And so if you can produce something in black and white, that sort of is the golden standard. That's the best way. But if not, if you have too much data points, too much information, then add color to it. Second thing about charts is, if let's say you have a chart created, let's say a bar chart or line chart. Imagine if somebody comes in your presentation, takes a picture of your chart, goes away and shares that picture with somebody else. Without your explanation, without attending your presentation, just looking at a picture of your chart, will they understand what information you were trying to convey? And if they understand, that means your chart is perfect. Because a chart should be self-contained, so that without your explanation, just by looking at the chart, people can understand what you are trying to convey. And it's always important to have a timestamp in your chart, so that everybody knows when was that chart created, how old that chart is. Okay, so that's sort of what I learned what they talked about in that conference. Actually, there was one very interesting story, even though it's not very relevant to us, but I still want to share it with you. They were talking about visualization and, of course, machine learning and artificial intelligence. So this guy one gave an example that he was doing this machine learning, machine analysis, or artificial intelligence. So they had this scenario where they were using sort of in the scenario spy planes. They will send the spy planes out to the sort of the enemy's territory and try to find out where their tanks are, right? So you can know where your enemy tanks are, and that way you can react. So they were playing the scenario. Spy planes goes out, takes picture of the area, and find out where their tanks are. And in this scenario, what was happening was that your spy planes would go on a cloudy day, so that your spy planes have the cover of cloud, so that enemy cannot see them. So what started happening there was, after some time, the artificial intelligence, the tool which they developed, they started saying that wherever it used to rain, that there are enemy tanks there. And they were surprised of why was that happening. And then after the analysis, they understood that because they were sending their spy planes only when it was cloudy. So every time a picture of an enemy tank was taken, it was taken on a cloudy day. So the machine learning, the artificial intelligence, sort of started correlating clouds or being a cloudy day with enemy tanks. So whenever the weather will show that in that enemy area there are clouds, it will say, oh, tanks must be there. So what that says is that even though we might have the best machine learning or tools, you cannot take away the human aspect or the human understanding of information. Okay, so let's get back into charts. So these are some of the four articles I have used for my presentation, and one of this article you will be using in your exam as well to answer a essay type question. This is the first time I have included an essay type question in your exam. So a lot of all these charts, at least the first three charts, have a lot of overlap with each other. So I'm not going to cover whatever is overlap. The first chart covers most of the things, and then I'll just show you what extra is there in each of the other papers. But please refer to them. They're very interesting paper, easy read, and very interesting. So the first one is SAS, Data Visualization Techniques. Right there, the first paper here. And let me open it too. So that's how the paper looks like. And it's have various charts and just tells you basically about it. Okay, so let's look at the first chart, histogram, the most commonly used chart, the most popular chart. What are the positive or strengths of histogram? It creates this nice category 0, 10, 10, 20, 20, 30. Put data in it. You can very easily see which category has most data. Is there a data skew? You should know skewness by now. Left side, right side. We did it in last week's class. You can see outliers, and it's a nice way to see what the distribution of your data is. The problem with histogram is, or at least its weakness is, that it comes up with the 0 to 10, 10 to 20. There's equal categories. So even if there's sometimes you don't want this same equal size bins. Maybe I want different size bins, which you have to then go and make changes for it to do that. So that's it's one of the drawback, that these bins are equally sized. The second one is box and whisker or box plot. If you are a finance person, accounting person, stock market person, you have used these charts a lot. These charts are really good. It tells you so much information. So this box, this middle line is your median. Right here, this plus is, oops, sorry. That is your mean. 75th percentile, 25th percentile, and of course median is your 50th percentile, half above, half below. And then outliers and your whiskers, top and bottom ones. So when you have data here, it can right away, so for example, I can right away see in this scenario, so they're using color with it. That's another nice addition to the box chart. At the lower percentile, looks like there are a lot of data in the lower 25 percentile, lot here in spring 2003. And so looks like in my students in spring 2012 and 2003, there were a lot in lower 25 percentile, but not in summer. So that's a good thing. And lot of students in upper percentile, and they have nicely used two contrasting colors and with dark and light symbol as well. So that shows your darker is your nice score, and lighter blue is A minus B plus, and same way darker red is fail and lighter you're going up. So nice combination of colors with whisker chart. So this is a very nice tool, a nice way of showing data. You can cover multiple things, and it tells you what quartile your data lies in. Then you have your scatter plot, which looks like this. So scatter plot is really a good way to show relationship between two variables, visitors, temperature. The more the higher temperature, the more number of visitors you get at a beach. So you can see it shows you easily the association, the relationship between two variables, and also the outliers. So that way, scatter plot is a nice way to see relationship between two variables. Then you have a bubble plot, which is a variation of scatter plot. So what bubble plot does is, let's say you are showing this data here. What if you have 1 million data or 10 million rows of data? So small dots here or here will make it very confusing. So that's where bubble chart comes into play. So the what you can say is, the darker the color, the more, or the bigger the circle, the more data there is. The smaller the circle, the less data there is. So same chart, but when you have a lot of data, use bubble plots. So the bigger the bubble, the more values there are. Then line graph, again it's a similar chart to scatter plot. Nice way to show relationship between two variables, especially comparing that relationship for different kind of companies. So let's say I want to see increase in sales for 2 or 3 companies, right? So this is top company, second company, third company, things like that. Then you have bar charts. Bar chart is really good for comparing how much the quantity, sales or growth, or how much a certain number of units have gone up and down. So for example, in this case, in January, we had around 1100 increase in our inventory. Then in February, the increase went up to 1800. So rather than making a chart all the way from here to here, this is a nice variation they have done here. So you could have made a chart again from 0 to like this point. Same thing in March, from this to this point. But this is a better way. So you can right away see, of course, you can right away see how much was the increase over the last month and how much was the decrease over the last month. So I could have made this all the way from here to here, but this is a nice variation. And that's what the charts are. How can, with these simple charts, you can be more creative. Then pie charts, which are one of the most common charts. You can compare different data points, variable with each other. A lot of people don't like pie chart, including myself. And the reason for that is, if I ask you this in this, is blue bigger than red? By how much? Are green and purple same? I have no idea. It's very difficult to compare these different slices. How much is that? How much area or what it represents? So uh it's a good if you have one or two data points, first 6 months, later 6 months, or 4 quarters. But when you have so many slices, it's so confusing to understand it. So avoid using pie charts. Okay. So these and then this paper, I think I've talked before also. This paper, of course, is from SAS, so SAS Visual Analytics. That's what they use. Example of mobile BI or charts on a mobile platform. And so that was some of the charts from this first paper. And again, you can go and read more about that individually again. And now the next paper I want to talk about is which chart is or graph is right for you. Okay. So again, this paper has all these charts, information about all these charts, which I have already covered, like bar chart, line chart, pie chart. We have already talked about that. So I want to talk about the charts which I have not talked before. So the first paper was from SAS Visual Analytics. The second one, which I'm using, is from Tableau, and it's a very nice one. You can go and read about it yourself. So let me talk about the chart, which something new, map, which has become really popular nowadays. And the reason it has become very popular nowadays is because, see, what has happened is, let me first open a map chart. Okay. Oh, wait, did I cross it? I must have. I think it was number 4 or 5. It was right here. Come on. Okay, so what has happened is that your tools like SAS Visual Analytics or your Tableau, what they did is they have this. If you go to any census board or any, I think there's some government department, you can simply go there and say, give me a copy of all the zip codes in America. They will give you that. That's all you need to do, and then these tools integrated those zip codes in as part of their tool. So now it has become very easy to post your data on those zip codes or on a city or a state. So you can say, if you're looking at your sales chart, and you are sales chart, so sale chart with a histogram, let's say sale in east, north, west, south, or in Chicago, Cleveland, Chattanooga, Atlanta. So instead of showing those 4 areas here, what if I simply just have a map of America and show those bar charts on the top of a map right here? And it has become very easy to do it because these underlying tools already has those zip code data. So you can select it by zip code or by city or cosmopolitan, and it just puts that chart on top of it. So that's why map has become very, very hot. Then you have something called Gantt charts. If you do a project management class, or if you have done any project scheduling in your work life, you have seen Gantt charts before. It's more related to project scheduling. That's where they use it. Then you have heat charts. So that's an example of a heat chart. So what this is showing is that on a web page, where are people looking the most, or what are they reading most? Or you can look at the heat chart and say which ads people are clicking the most. So it's a nice way to compare where people are looking, or what is the hot part on a website or something like that. Tree map, I'm gonna skip. It's very confusing. I don't like it that much. So what has happened now is that a combination of charts have become very popular, and this concept has been made popular by Tableau, where you combine 2 or 3 different kinds of chart, and that's what, this is sort of data, uh, funded ratio and unfunded liability by plan of various states. So you click on it, it shows you for that state. Where is, so that's Tennessee, and it's a nice way to, rather than showing it like that on a graph or something, you're putting your data on top of a map. So I like it. It's a nice way of showing it. And then you can go to Tableau's gallery and see a lot of other charts there as well. They have a lot of example. This one is a really nice chart. Endangered, a lot of information there. The main purpose of charts nowadays, especially with big data, has become, as you will see in some of the later charts as well, how do we show so much data or information on a chart, on a small chart. So these were some of the new kind of charts in this paper. Then basically we have covered all the charts so far. Again, this is the last another paper which I have uploaded to you guys. Four charts every social media manager needs, and this paper shows how you can use these charts in context of social media data, Twitter, Facebook likes. Nowadays in marketing, in a lot of companies, analyzing Facebook data, Twitter data, LinkedIn data has become very popular. How do we show those data? How much likes our product got? How do you show that? How do we make a chart of that? So this is a very nice example of showing that where are our audience and stuff. So simple charts, but now in context of social media. So you can go back and look through them and see if they are related to your kind of work. The last paper, which is part of your assignment as well, the 5 most influential data visualization of all times. So these are, let me open that. So these, again, this is from Tableau. And if you might be thinking that most of the visualization would be from the current time, you're in for a surprise. Let's start with the 5th one. London cholera map, which was created in 1854. So what this chart shows us, that in 1854 a lot of people were dying in London based on some disease, and they were not able to figure out what was the cause of death. And then John Snow, he started putting those dots for every death, and realized that most of the deaths are coming if near the water supply. So that's how they find out that deaths were somehow related to the water or a waterborne disease. Then 4th one, this I will show you in a demo. It's a very nice graph, my favorite. I'll show you this in more detail a little bit later. Then March of Moscow. I don't know if you are a history fan or not, but this shows when in 18th century Napoleon marched on Moscow, and Moscow sort of burned all their villages, cities, all the way up to Moscow, so that Napoleon army cannot get any food or anything. So this shows his march, and he lost nearly 600,000 people on this march. So this chart shows loss of people over his march. Then this chart was created by Florence Nightingale in the, I think, not first World War, even before that. So in that era, 1855, they didn't, or at least the army didn't believe in hospitals, and more importantly in hygiene or sanitation. So with this chart, Florence Nightingale was able to show that how much sanitation was impacting the soldiers' health, disease, as well as their death rate or mortality rate. So this had a huge impact on the way sanitation became a big part of British Army at that time, which was sort of the big superpower at that time. And then the number one chart is from Joseph Presley, which was again from 18th century. And what he did was that this chart shows over 2000 historical figures, mainly from Western civilization, over various period of time, and nicely show that data. So the key thing about these graphs are how they creatively show data, and especially large amount of data. That's what make a chart uh, amazing, when you can have, when you can in a meaningful, in a non-clutter way, show lot of information. Okay. Then I have some examples which I want to show you. Let me open my notes. Where am I? Okay. So Gapminder is a tool you can use to show, to create charts. But what I want to show you with this chart is that how much data they are showing us with this simple chart. So what's happening in this chart is they are showing us uh, over the period of last 200 years that the change in income or GDP in a country, and how that, and that's its relationship with life expectancy. So generally, what is expected is the more income there is per person, the more life expectancy there is. So they're showing that information for 200 years for all the countries in the world. Green is North and South America, bluish is African countries, yellow is Russia and Europe, and red is Middle East and Asia. So let's look at this chart. Why is it not working? One second. Okay. Okay, it's working now. I think the two biggest blocks, these are China, India, and what country is that? Netherlands. That must be UK. Let's see where, France, Germany, Italy. I don't think America would be there because America didn't exist. Okay, there's I think America now. Oh, Civil War. I think that's why it went down. countries there. And now you will see the First World War, and everything's gonna go down. See, oh, the whole world's thing went down. The First World War. And 39, Second World War will start. Oh, see, drop again. And then you should now see China is still quite far, 894, but in last 30 years, how from 1000, how quickly it will move. So and you know, in this chart, if you want, you can go do it by, you can select certain countries as well. So let's say if I want to look just at China and with US, EU, States, maybe do it from 85, maybe add one more country to it. Let's add India to it. I think India would be too close to it, so too big red circle. Let's select some other country. Oh, let's do Afghanistan. So I really like this chart. So much information right there, and you know, they have various other charts as well, which you can, you know, play around with your own time. Oh, right there. Oh, where did it go? Right here is their old charts, and now the last chart which I want to show you is where you have now added human, you know, video to a chart, and how cool that looks. So this is something new, and I'm sure you will really like it. So you know, I think this is sort of the latest thing which they have done in the chart, is with charts where they have combined it with, you know, a person explaining the chart in the background, which, you know, I find very fascinating.
World population.
And you can see all these other charts they have here too. I will
In 1950, more than 6 billion years earlier. How soon
I'll
it
let you
will
explore it on your own time.